Die Gedanken sind frei, wer kann sie erraten? Sie fliegen vorbei wie menschliche Schatten. Kein Mensch kann sie wissen, kein Jäger erschießen mit Pulver und Blei. Die Gedanken sind frei. Ich denke, was ich will und was mich beglücket, doch alles findet still und wie es sich schicket. Und was Wunsch und Begehren kann niemand verwehren, es bleibe dabei, die Gedanken sind frei. Und sperrt man nicht ein in finsteren Kerker, das alles sind rein vergebliche Werke, denn meine Gedanken zerreißen die Schranken und Mauern entzwei, die Gedanken sind frei. Drum will ich auf immer den Sorgen entsagen und will mich auch nimmer mit Grillen mehr plagen. Man kann ja im Herzen stets lachen.
Do we have audio now? Do we have audio now? How about now? We got audio? 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 No audio. Okay, good. I don't know what happened there. Okay, good, good. So I'm starting over there. Did you guys hear the music? I hope you heard the music. What I had there was Die Gedanken sind frei, which is a German song. Thoughts are free. So, okay. So let's talk about... did you hear the song? You heard the song, Die Gedanken sind frei? Anyhow, it's a song that fits to the theme. What I have here is a... Okay, so you heard the song. So, getting better at this, but there are some hiccups now and then. So the song was Die Gedanken sind frei, or The Thoughts Are Free. It's a German Studentenlied, or song sung by school children and college students about freedom of thought, which the former Stasi agents that have been running the German government and most of the governments of Europe, these communist-style enforcers of Jewish taboos on speech, they don't like this song. So it was one of Monika Schäfer's favorite songs, and I was friends with Alfred Schaefer. He was on my chat server during my campaign. And there's another guy out naming the Jew who is probably going to get thrown in prison in Germany in the near future too. His name is Volkslehrer, or the People's Teacher. And he has been very tactically naming the Jew in Germany. So without further ado, I will begin the translation of Volkslehrer and how to name the Jew in Germany.
Sind jedoch nicht alle Deutschen so offen.
But not all Germans are so open, so I guess this is a piece that's been cut out from the show. I found a summary of the best parts of the interview between the Jew and the German, the Volkslehrer. So it starts off, but not all Germans are so open with their views.
Die meisten antisemitischen Vorfälle kommen von rechts.
Most of the cases of anti-Semitism come from the right.
Überwiegend Propagandadelikte und Volksverhetzung.
Leftover, vestigial, what is it? Propaganda or incitement of the people. Volksverhetzung. I'm not giving German lessons today, but yeah. Anyhow, leftover propaganda and incitement of the people.
Und in zunehmendem Maße stammen Mobbing und Hate Speech aus dem Internet.
And in increasing case, or in an increasing frequency, there's now more mobbing and hate speech coming from the Internet.
Nikolai Nerling ist Grundschullehrer, der wegen Hetzvideos und Holocaust-Verschwörungstheorien im Unterricht aus dem Schuldienst entlassen.
So Nikolai here, that's the first name of the Volkslehrer, was dismissed from his job at Grundschule. Grundschule, is that elementary or middle? I think it's elementary / middle school. But he was dismissed from that so that because he was being anti-Semitic and using hate speech goy. So this guy's a former elementary school teacher. Very honest man. He has no filter, a lot like me.
Wurde. Der Fall machte bundesweit Schlagzeilen.
So it was headlines all over the Republic, all over Germany.
Als der Volkslehrer betreibt er auf YouTube seinen eigenen völkisch-nationalen Propagandakanal.
And as a Volkslehrer on YouTube, he sells his own form of propaganda, they're saying. So he's got his own propaganda channel, the Jews are saying, on YouTube. You snazzy dresser, look at this guy.
Antisemitismus ist nur sehr dürftig versteckt.
And he only thinly veils his anti-Semitism. Oh, he's just having an anti-Semitism outbreak, this guy.
Das Interview dauerte insgesamt 40 Minuten.
The interview lasted 40 minutes.
Wir zeigen hier nur Ausschnitte.
And we'll only be showing snippets here, or excerpts.
Herr Nerling, Sie agitieren fast täglich mit
you agitate almost every day.
Selbstproduzierten Videos
With your homemade videos
auf Ihrem YouTube-Kanal
on your YouTube channel.
gegen Stadt, die Regierung, gegen Ausländer.
You talk against the state, against foreigners, against the government.
Gegen alles, was politische Linke als Sie.
And whatever someone could see as the left.
Was ist eigentlich Ihre Motivation hierfür?
And the Jew finishes with, what is your motivation here?
Ich würde es anders formulieren. Ich würde sagen, ich agiere für.
He would say, and the Volkslehrer responds, I would phrase it differently. I advocate for
Etwas.
I advocate for something.
Ich für Völkerverständigung, für Frieden.
He advocates for understanding between peoples, for peace.
Und für Freiheit und vor allen Dingen für ein freies deutsches Volk und
And he advocates for freedom for the people of Germany.
ein freies Deutschland.
And for free Germany.
Und was ist ein freies Deutschland und ein freies deutsches Volk für Sie?
And the Jew now asks, what does a free German people or a free Germany mean to you?
Für mich ist es insbesondere, dass wir so leben können, wie wir leben wollen. Wir
And Volkslehrer says, for me, living free means that the people here get to live as we want to.
Deutschen. Und im Moment ist das leider nicht gewährleistet.
And Germans are not allowed to live as they wish right now.
Das heißt, ja, viel Musik wird zum Beispiel gespielt im Radio, die nicht deutsch ist.
Much music is played on the German radio, which is not German.
In anderen Ländern gibt es eine Quote, die eingehalten werden soll. Hier scheint mir das völlig willkürlich zu sein, als ein Beispiel.
In other countries, I missed part of that, but pretty much that isn't happening in other countries. But here, what's on our radio is completely arbitrary.
Viele andere Dinge, die uns Deutschen aus meiner Sicht nicht gut tun, die dem
And lots of things that are not good for us Germans.
deutschen Leben in Deutschland entgegenstehen.
So basically saying the stuff we have in our media is not helping us as Germans. It's actually hurting us, especially the German aspect of what they are.
Wenn Sie sagen wir, was meinen Sie?
And the Jew is trying to do the whole you're being exclusive thing by asking, when you say we, what does that mean?
Mit wir meine ich diejenigen, die sich als Deutsche bezeichnen.
And here he has to dance a little bit because there are laws against biological realism in Germany to some extent. And so he says those of us who identify as Germans implicitly, ethnically,
und die auch Deutsche sein möchten.
Und
and those who wish to be German. So he's leaving the door open for people who want to behave as Germans.
wie bezeichnet man, deutsch zu sein?
And the Jew asks, well, how do you describe being German? What is it to be German? You know, this is the whole, well, what is a thing? This is a thing the Jews do. Anytime you say you advocate for something, they try and get you to say, well, what does that mean? Okay, that thing you described it with, what does that mean? You know, going down this rabbit hole.
Was es ausmacht, deutsch zu sein?
And the Volkslehrer is clarifying, so what does it mean to be German?
Also eine Sache ist, dass man sein Land liebt, sein Volk liebt.
First, someone loves his people and his country.
Dass man gerne hier lebt und
That you enjoy living here.
dass man sich nicht schlecht fühlt, wenn man sagt, ich bin Deutscher.
And when you don't feel bad when you say, I am German.
So, das ist etwas ganz Grundsätzliches, denn viele
And that's something very foundational.
haben, oder sagen wir so, viele sehen sich als Deutsche, aber immer in so einer Schuldumgebung.
And he says many people consider or feel themselves to be German, but always in an environment of shame, of guilt.
Und das ist etwas, was ich den Deutschen auch ein bisschen nehmen möchte. Einfach wieder froh zu sein und selbstbewusst zu sagen, ich bin Deutscher und das möchte ich auch sein.
So he'd like to take away some of that guilt and say that they're free to, or wants them to feel happy and proud to be German. You know, take away the guilt, which involves telling the truth about the Shoah, but that's probably coming up here in the interview. After 3 minutes.
Wo gehöre ich in Ihrer ganzen Bild zu Deutschland?
And the Jew asks, where do I belong in your whole picture of Germany?
Das müssen Sie wissen. Sie müssen wissen.
Nein, ich frage Sie.
And so Volkslehrer says, you must know that. And then the Jew says, but I want you to say it.
Weil Sie sagen, dass eigentlich es gibt eine sehr spezifische Definition von
And now the Jew's trying to get back to the semantics thing by saying, the Jew says, but there's a very specific definition.
was Deutsch und was Deutschland ist.
I want you to tell me what is German, what is Germany? You know, basically back to the semantic stuff, like the whole, there's no such thing as white, or there's no such thing as German. This is why it's pointless to talk to Jews most of the time. And there are some exceptions, but this Jew is proving to be no exception to the rule.
Sie haben das artikuliert, aber
You have articulated.
Sie sagen, dass man gehört nicht zu dieser Definition, man ist eigentlich nicht Deutsche oder so.
So he says so the Jew says, so if someone doesn't subscribe to your definition, they don't fit the definition of German. So it's just word games.
Gehört nicht zu diesem Land.
And thus someone who doesn't fit your definition doesn't belong to this country.
Ja, das ist ja ganz einfach. Lieben Sie Deutschland? Lieben Sie das deutsche Volk?
And so, you know, so he's responding to this stringing in the whole, where do I belong here, the thing that the Jew asks. And Volkslehrer says, well, do you love Germany? Do you feel like you love Germany? And so the Jew will respond now.
Ich benutze Worte nicht wie deutsche Volk.
And the Jew says, I don't use words like, or phrases like, the German people. So this is the same thing as the Jews do with the Palestinians, where they say, well, Palestinians aren't really real. So it's the whole, we don't want you to exist, so we're going to just go ahead and say you don't exist as a people now, for when we finish genociding you, Goy. Anyhow, let me get back to the interview here and actually just translating. I'll try and cut down on the commentary, but this Jew is triggering.
Für mich, das ist eine unappetite Sache.
Ja.
Ich bin sehr...
So the Jew doesn't like to use phrases like the German people because for him it's not a palatable phrase, or it's not a palatable concept, German people.
froh und glücklich, meine deutsche Pass zu kriegen.
The Jew says, I'm happy and pleased to receive my German passport, which any Jew in the world can go to Germany and demand a passport, by the way. Just like in Spain and a few other countries, in most countries in the world, a Jew can just show up and say, I'm a citizen, give me my pass.
Liebe, in Berlin zu leben.
The Jew likes living in Berlin.
Ich liebe meine deutschen Freunde. Ich liebe meinen Open House.
He loves his German friends. He loves his, whatever he means by open house.
Und ich bin eigentlich, ich nehme es ein großer Privileg, ein deutscher Pass zu kriegen.
And once again, he repeats, I think it's such a great privilege to receive my German passport. So nowhere here is there anything about German identity or anything. This is the whole Germans don't exist. These are arbitrary borders. Globalism now, boy.
Und viele Menschen hat ein Problem, eine Pass in dieser Zeit zu kriegen.
But he says so many people are having trouble getting German passports or permission to live in Germany.
Aber Sie sind nicht verantwortlich für die Definition über was Deutschland ist für mich.
But you, implying you German, are not allowed to say what the definition of German is in a way that influences whether or not I get my pass or other people get their pass. So basically, hey Germans, you're not allowed to decide who comes into your country. That's for us Jews to decide.
Das habe ich auch nicht gesagt. Ich habe gesagt, wer das Land liebt und wer sich als Deutscher fühlt. Und wenn Sie einen deutschen Pass haben, einen Personalausweis nehme ich mal an.
He says, and that's what I say. The definition is to feel like you're part of it. And I need to chop this up shorter. My memory isn't that good to remember the whole thing. But basically, well, like I said, you have to love this country to fit the definition of what it means to be German. And, when you say that you get your pass, ... or you love having your pass.
Dann sind Sie ein Staatsbürger der BRD.
And that makes you a citizen of the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, BRD, Republic of Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany. So he's saying, okay, the pass makes you a citizen of the Republic of Germany, and here's the ...
Sie sind dadurch aber kein Angehöriger des deutschen Volkes. Das Wort mögen Sie nicht, aber auch das disqualifiziert Sie auch gerade als Deutscher.
But because of your inability to identify, or basically you're not qualified to identify yourself as German, and you're also not, you say even just the concept of the German people makes you uncomfortable. Basically, you're not German, even though you've been given citizenship.
Ein Deutscher sagt, es gibt ein deutsches Volk.
And he says, hey, there's such a thing as the German people.
Ich bin ein Teil davon.
And he says, I'm a member of that. The Volkslehrer says, I am a member of the German people, where he's just told the Jew, you who do not identify as German, you're not a member of the German people. Like that. It's obvious.
Mhm. In unserem Film geht es Thema Antisemitismus.
And so the Jew just takes it on the chin and tries to move on and says, in our film, we're talking about the topic of anti-Semitism.
Welche jüdische Stereotypen stimmen denn Ihrer Meinung nach?
According to you, Goy, which stereotypes about Jews are true?
Jüdische Stereotypen? Sie meinen der Geldgierige zum Beispiel, sowas in der Art?
And then the Volkslehrer asks, what do you mean stereotypes about Jews? Like being greedy for money or being selfish about money?
Und Sie können mir sagen, was die Stereotypen sind.
And then the Jew says, no, you tell me what the stereotypes are. And so here the Jew is looking for the bit to play in the news.
Also Stereotypen grundsätzlich helfen einmal die Welt zu ordnen.
And then the Volkslehrer intelligently responds, well, stereotypes help men to establish or perceive order in the world.
Und natürlich gibt es Stereotypen, die treffen nicht zu. Ich würde sagen zum Beispiel.
And he says also there are some stereotypes that don't hold true, such as
Die dumme Blondine. Es gibt ganz viele blonde Frauen,
such as the stereotype of the dumb blonde.
die sind sehr schlau.
There are lots of blondes that are very schlau, intelligent or clever. I think clever. Smart, I guess.
Was eben so künstlich eingeführt wurde.
So this has been artificially imposed or introduced, this stereotype about blondes.
Das heißt, ich überprüfe es auch gerne.
And so he likes to überprüfen is like to edit something. He likes to test it or see if it's true. Like if someone hands you a rough draft of something, you do überprüfen, which is like proofread, but I guess it's more ambiguous than that in German.
Was jetzt jüdische Stereotypen betrifft, klar, da gibt es auch viele.
And he says, so he's just finished describing the untrue stereotype about blondes, which is a large percentage of the German people. And he says, but now let's talk about these stereotypes about Jews.
Also eben der jüdische Banker.
So he says there's the stereotype of the Jewish banker.
Es gibt auch hunderte, tausende nicht-jüdische Banker.
And so the Jew interrupts because he sees where he's going and says, but immediately says, but there are many bankers that are not Jews. And so the Volkslehrer is going to respond.
Ja, ich meine, also das ist ein Stereotyp.
Mhm.
And so he's going back to it, not letting the Jew get away with semantics here, and says, but it's a stereotype. the Volkslehrer says.
Ne? Und dann kann man sich einfach mal angucken, die großen Banken, ja, wer sind die Vorstände?
So so here he does the Überprüfen. He does the testing of the stereotype. He does. He says we can look who are the executives or the members of the board of these giant banks.
Und da findet man eben einen exponentiell hohen Anteil an Juden in den Vorständen.
And then you find an exponential amount of Jews, an exponentially high percentage or fraction of this being Jews, who are people at the head of banks or I guess on the board at a bank.
Der im Vergleich zu ihrem Bevölkerungsanteil eben exorbitant hoch ist.
And so he then says, so if you compare this percentage of people who are Jews in the banking industry or at the higher levels of it, and compare that to their percentage of the population, that's that's overrepresentation, or it's not a proportional representation. And I'm sorry, sometimes it's difficult to translate because some phrases you can't translate directly, and you have to do a conceptual translation. I'm sorry, I'm not the best translator. And it says at the bottom right there, after 6 minutes.
Ab wann man ist ein Judenhasser?
Wenn ein Jude zu
And then the Jews immediately dives in with, starting when is someone a Jew hater? And now the Volkslehrer response.
einem sagt, man sei ein Judenhasser.
Hold on, let me go back, I missed it.
Ein Jude zu einem sagt, man sei ein Judenhasser.
Ab wann man ist ein Judenhasser?
Wenn ein Jude zu einem sagt, man sei ein Judenhasser.
So the Jew asks him, so when is someone a Jew hater? And the Volkslehrer right away responds, when a Jew calls him a Jew hater. That's when someone's immediately a Jew hater.
Da.
Nur das.
Hold on, let me go back. The Volkslehrer is talking very quickly. I think his energy's up, so let me go back here.
Sei ein Judenhasser.
Nur das.
And so the Jew says only this, or just this will make someone into a Jew hater. Like give them the official title of Jew hater. Being a Jew calling you a Jew hater, is that really all that makes someone a Jew hater?
Ich würde sagen, das ist relativ verlässlich, denn
And so he says that that's relatively dependable. This definition that the Volkslehrer has given. So he says, yeah, it's pretty dependable that if a Jew calls you a Jew hater, that you now have the title officially of Jew hater.
allein wenn man die Frage stellt nach dem Einfluss jüdischer Menschen in der Finanzbranche oder in den Medien oder wo auch immer, wird das gleich als antisemitisch gedeutet. Oder eben der Begriff antisemitisch wird eben da verwandt.
So, and the Volkslehrer points out here, even just to be asked if you're an anti-Semite, or if the question comes up whether or not you're an anti-Semite, automatically you earn this title. Automatically, that you have then this like, it's like being, he didn't say this, but pretty much it's like being called a witch. You just automatically, it's almost like being accused of rape. You've been accused of anti-Semitism. You've been accused of rape. It's like, it's already, whether or not you're guilty doesn't really matter, is what he's getting at.
Ich würde sagen antijudaistisch. Und deswegen kann man eigentlich sagen, tatsächlich, wenn jemand...
And so he says, it'd be better to say anti-Jewish. And when someone's being realistic, ...
von einem Juden als Antisemit bezeichnet wird, dann ist er einer.
And then he says, when a Jew is described as an anti-Semite, that's actually a good description, the Volkslehrer says.
Antisemit ist nicht jemand, der Juden nicht mag, sondern jemand, den Juden nicht mögen.
And he says an anti-Semite isn't someone that doesn't... I have to go back, sorry. He started talking quick and it's throwing me off.
Ein Antisemit ist nicht jemand, der Juden nicht mag, sondern jemand, den Juden nicht mögen.
Aha, okay, sorry, I missed it. So he says an anti-Semite isn't someone who dislikes Jews. An anti-Semite is someone the Jews don't like. This is something similar to what Dr. Duke has said in the past. This is very good.
Gut, so ich bin Jude, wie Sie wissen, und ich würde sagen, Sie sind ein großer Antisemit.
So the Jew says, okay, well, I'm a Jew, as you know. Oh God, that's going to be a sound bit. So the Jew says, I'm a Jew, as you know. And I think you're an anti-Semite, Volkslehrer.
Herr Nerling.
Das dachte ich mir. Und das passt ja genau in die Definition, die ich eben gemacht habe.
And the Volkslehrer says, yeah, I thought so, and that fits exactly to the definition that I said before. You're calling me, pretty much he's saying, so you're calling me an anti-Semite, so that makes me, you're controlling the definition, so it's just whatever you say is anti-Semitic.
Gehören diese jüdische deutsche Künstler und Dichter und alle diese jüdische Elemente in deutsche Kultur bis 33, gehören sie zur deutschen Kultur oder nicht?
And then the Jew, it said after 8 minutes, ... and it did the black screen, and so now he says, and the Jew says, all of the Jewish poets and scientists and poets and all these, basically, is everyone that has ever contributed to German culture in the past, do they really not fit to the definition of German? These ones before 1933? And so now, ...
Sie haben hier als Kulturschaffende gewirkt. Wenn ich mir anschaue, aber welchen Einfluss sie teilweise hatten.
So he says they were indeed influencers of culture. They worked as influencers of culture, but what type of influence they exerted was ...
Jüdisches Theater, jüdische Filme, über jüdische Musik kann ich jetzt gar nicht so viel sagen. Ich bin jetzt kein
what they did, the expression of cultural influence was Jewish music, Jewish theater, Jewish types of cultural programming.
Großer Musikkenner. Dann würde ich sagen, dass es nicht unbedingt den Deutschen hier genutzt hat. Es war.
This isn't stuff that was useful to Germans. Let me go back a little bit. His German is not basic or slow. One sec. Let me go back.
Musik kann ich jetzt gar nicht so viel sagen. Ich bin jetzt kein großer Musikkenner. Dann würde ich sagen, dass es nicht unbedingt den Deutschen hier genutzt hat. Es war sehr oft etwas verrucht und anrüchig und gerade die goldenen 20er, die auch mal so gehypt.
Okay, so he's basically saying, okay, Jews made music and theater and stuff, but it was garbage. So he's talking about the stuff the Jews did in the 20s. Like, I don't know if you've seen that new Netflix show, Babylon Berlin. Which I believe, if you want to learn German, watch that in German with English subtitles, because that is in German. So watch it with German language with English subtitles. So he's saying basically the Jewish cultural influence was garbage and poison. Just a summary of what he's saying.
Waren, die wurden auch sehr geprägt durch jüdische Theater.
I have to go back, sorry. He speaks fast as shit. Fuck.
Sind jedoch nicht alle dort.
Der Juden nicht mag, sondern jemand, dachte ich mir, und das passt ja genau in.
Und Dichter und alle diese jüdische Elemente in deutsche
Sorry, I accidentally hit back. I have to catch up with where I was.
Kultur bis 33, gehören sie zur deutschen Kultur oder nicht?
Sie haben.
So basically, everything the Jews were doing during the Depression, the exploitation of Germans and stuff, does that not belong to German culture? Basically the way someone would ask now, but haven't Jews enriched American culture? And it's basically saying, don't you love porno? Don't you love underage girls being exploited?
Haben hier als Kulturschaffende gewirkt. Wenn ich mir anschaue, aber welchen Einfluss sie teilweise hatten. Jüdisches Theater, jüdische Filme.
Okay, so they worked as cultural influencers, but what type of influence? And basically their influence was Jewish theater, Jewish music, blah, blah, blah.
Über jüdische Musik kann ich jetzt gar nicht so viel sagen. Ich bin jetzt kein großer Musikkenner.
He says, the whole Jewish music thing, I'm not really someone who's an expert in music, but he's kind of saying, okay, I'm segueing into something else.
Dann würde ich sagen, dass es nicht unbedingt den Deutschen hier genutzt hat. Es war.
So this stuff didn't help the Germans, or this wasn't a net positive for the German, these Jewish cultural influences.
Sehr oft etwas verrucht und anrüchig und gerade die goldenen 20er, die auch mal so.
So often these Jewish contributions were, I don't know what those two adjectives are, but conceptually I'm guessing it means rotten or garbage or unwholesome or raunchy. I think raunchy. I think it's raunchy.
So gehypt waren, die wurden auch sehr geprägt durch jüdische Theater und Lichtspielhäuser.
So basically, Jewish red light districts and Jewish theater created the bad culture of the 20s, which was just debauchery, German mother-daughter prostitute teams were out on the street. That last part is just me throwing that in there, but it was just the stuff that led the Germans to demand an authoritarian state to protect them from Jewish garbage. And I just skipped around again. I'm not good at this yet.
Zur deutschen Kultur.
Reich, sie meinen Geld?
Zu deutscher Kultur, reiche Wunder wissen nicht, was der Vorteil.
Irgendwas zum Vorteil. Deswegen wurde ich durch jüdische Theater und Lichtspielhäuser. Das war jetzt nicht unbedingt was zum Vorteil. Deswegen wundert mich immer, dass Herr Müller sagt,
Sie wissen nicht, was
So basically, none of these things that the Jews were contributing worked to the advantage of Germans.
der Vorteil war.
ja, ich will
Weil es bringt, ja natürlich, ich weiß das, es bringt viele reiche, wunderbare Dimensionen zu deutscher Kultur.
And so the Jew says, but this did bring advantages to Germany. Many enriching, culturally rich dimensions were brought by the Jews to the German culture.
reich, Sie meinen Geld?
Nein,
And so this is a pun. This is a word game here. When the Jew says, but the Jews basically brought this enrichment, and the German says, what do you mean? Like, rich is in money versus enrichment. So he's kind of like saying basically the Jews were getting rich off from this stuff.
ich mag reich in Ideen.
Wenn
And so after the Volkslehrer does the jab with what? You mean the Jews enrich themselves? The Jew says, no, we enrich the country with ideas.
Frauen anfangen zu rauchen und sich in Nachtclubs die Nächte vertreiben, anstatt zu Hause zu sitzen und sich um Kinder und Familie zu kümmern, ist das kein Reichtum aus meiner Sicht.
So he says it's not an advocacy of women's rights. It's not something that helps the women, or it's not advantageous for women. If during this time the Jews did things like getting women to smoke cigarettes and got them to dance in nudist clubs or in strip clubs, and got them to not be at home taking care of their families or basically being happy wives. This isn't something that helped German women. So your enrichment wasn't enrichment, Jew. It's poison. And it says after 40 minutes, ...
Ich möchte nur sagen, weil wir kommen zu the end of the Sachen, dass ich bin jetzt fertig.
And the Jew says, now that we're at the end of this interview, I guess, I'd like to say, ...
Dass ich finde, Gott sei Dank, dass die Mehrheit von Deutschen sind nicht wie Sie.
I'm just so thankful that most Germans aren't like you.
Gott sei Dank.
God, thank God. And now the Volkslehrer is going to respond.
Ja, und leider sind die Mehrheit der Juden so wie Sie.
And the Volkslehrer says, yeah, Jew, well, unfortunately, most Jews are like you. Boom!
Antisemitismus.
Oh man, he ended with what they call the hammer in German there. So that was me introducing to you to one of the greatest men in German history. His name is Volkslehrer, and I would like to... He speaks German and English. I'll do an interview in either with him. He might have to speak a little bit more slowly so I don't have to ask him to repeat himself, as I had to replay the video so often there. But get me Volkslehrer. I wish to interview this guy. This guy is awesome. So I'll be doing another stream later tonight with updates about the It's Okay to Be White marches, as well as how you, Goyim, can organize amongst yourselves without submitting to a hierarchy which the Jews like to always subvert and entrap people in. So, the best way for the Jews not to mess with your freedom of association and your freedom of speech and your freedom of assembly is to not make some type of hierarchy for the Jews to entrap people in. And so I'm basically going to turn over the tools that you need to organize among yourselves, such that there isn't some type of leadership hierarchy for the Jews to take down like they did with Charlottesville. Let me sit down with my tech team, and I'll get back to you guys in a little bit with how to organize amongst yourselves to do your It's Okay to Be White marches. Have a good one, Goyim, and thanks for tuning in to this very first episode of Solidarity and Civil Rights Advocacy with Pat, translating the Volkslehrer. Goodbye.